Welcome back to Nerd Thug Radio.
Woo!
You're listening to us on Conroe's FM 104.5, 106.1.
Sister stations.
Worldwide at
IRLoneStar.com.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And don't forget, you can catch this show every Monday from 1 to 3 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time.
That's what they're doing right now.
Yeah, but if they missed the show, they just now picked it up. They say, oh, you guys started at 1. You've been doing this for 2 hours. You guys are hilarious. Yes, I need more of you. I'll tune in next week. Or check the podcast tomorrow, facebook.com/NerdThugRadio.
Listen, if you're just now hearing us, it's almost 3 p.m. and you're driving around. We're just now hitting your ears. Shame on you.
No, not shame on you.
Shame on you.
Listen to us.
You do this whole 2 hours or you do nothing at all.
Oh, my goodness.
Turn it off.
This is why we lose listeners.
Just turn it off and download the podcast tomorrow. Listen
day.
to that. Stop listening to things halfway
Stop,
through.
drop, and roll.
Yeah, well, I mean, if they're on fire.
So, during the break,
I said this to you. This is true.
It's something we touched on a lot over the 62
Phrasing.
shows we've done. And we haven't talked much about it here lately.
No, we haven't.
But go ahead. You were telling me this in the break.
Yeah, so because of the show, we started watching wrestling again and we both have kind of gotten really into it, but also it's fun. It's another fun thing to talk about on the show and a lot of people, but
it's something I for sure, and you when you were younger, were both very passionate about.
Dude, the late 90s were awesome.
Very passionate. I was even, in the early 90s, I can still remember, we're going to Blockbuster. What are you going to rent? A wrestling DVD.
Yeah, that's true. You did do that. You were way bigger.
Think? I watched SummerSlam 93 for the 5th time this week.
I remember walking through the Blockbusters and seeing those and being like, that's so cool. And then, they'd be like, okay, we'll pick a movie. And I'd be like, all right, well, I'm going to get something else.
That's how I get.
Shied away.
Right. So I'm starting to just kind of fall out of love with, I TiVo SmackDown because of the way our schedules are and all that. And honestly, I now watch just them talking and, one match.
Yeah, I don't, so because of my hectic schedule,
right,
a lot of times
pretty much the only person busier than you is Nico.
Not even close.
It's true.
According to his
100%
parents.
true.
Right.
According to his parents.
No sarcasm.
I'm usually not home Monday or Tuesday nights to watch either one. So I record it. NXT, now on the other hand, it's on the network, and I have that. So I watch that, on my lunch breaks at work.
Do they put Raw and SmackDown on the network thing?
It's a lag.
Okay.
It takes a few. When Raw Hub is on Monday, it doesn't show up Tuesday. It might be a week behind or whatever.
That's probably from networking standpoint.
Yeah, but one of the things I do when I get to work, I get into work, and I do, I catch up with the morning, whatever emails I got to get to. Mm-hmm. 9 o'clock from 9 to 10 becomes my slow time. Things slow down a little bit in the office. The first thing I do is check wrestling news, then I check comic book news, and then I check, the Nerd Thug email, and then I go back to work. But wrestling is still a huge part of what I do every day.
Yeah, for sure.
Even if I don't get to watch it, I know what's going on.
You do. You're very plugged in, and you do a lot of the indie stuff. I'm wrestling to you is something you enjoy.
Yeah, wrestling is more than just WWE.
I think that's fair.
But so I've got some insider news for you.
Okay. You don't even want to comment on the fact that I don't love wrestling anymore.
No, I mean you.
That's all right. No, do your insider news. We can come back to it.
This is kind of getting into maybe one of the reasons why you're getting bored to it.
Let's hear it.
It's something that a few reporters have tried to get more information on.
Oh, okay.
And no one's really talking, but the scoop going around is that there is a big dissension between Triple H and Vince McMahon. Vince McMahon runs the WWE. He is the CEO.
Let me rephrase you there a little bit. It's his company,
right? And he has final say on just about
everything. But he had stepped back here in recent years and let Triple H he gave Triple H one thing, and it did so well that he's kind of grown to the point where last 2 years or so, Vince McMahon has been very hands off, and now he's kind of returned.
Well, okay, so to kind of clear up what you're saying is Triple H, when he came back to TV, he was kind of doing his thing. Everything was going great.
Right.
And then they want to groom Triple H to kind of be the next Vince McMahon.
Right.
So what he's done is NXT has become Triple H's baby. That's all him. He has final say over that. Vince doesn't touch any of that. That's his stuff.
Right.
On the opposite side, you've got Raw, SmackDown, the big stuff.
Right.
Vince McMahon has final say on all that stuff.
Right. So Triple H had to clear things through him, but Vince McMahon for the last couple of years has been very
hands off on NXT. Right. That's all him.
100%. But even in improving stuff, he was kind of trusting Triple H a little bit. The Undertaker stuff was some of the only things that Vince McMahon still
the problem that's coming between the both of them is Triple H is getting very frustrated, and this is something we've you've noticed and you talked about, he spends all this time on NXT building up these characters, building up these wrestlers. I mean, these guys only this NXT they pre-record stuff and they only do like one live event like every couple months.
Right.
It's usually a Saturday before a big event, and they get more love and more, percentage rating wise and viewers than Raw and SmackDown. And so he's starting to get very frustrated because he's putting all this work in, and then they push him up to the main roster, and then Vince just doesn't get it, and then they get buried. And there's tons of NXT stars that just fade away.
Yeah,
So
we have talked about that.
So
but I kind of disagree on the reason why. But go ahead, finish.
But no, this is the story going around. This is the scoop that he's getting frustrated building these stars up, and they're not being used properly. And right now the ratings on SmackDown and Raw are down.
Yeah, they're
and
down.
They've got these same characters that were huge in NXT.
Right.
But their characters have been tweaked and changed a bit on the main roster as opposed to where they were.
Just translating them directly.
Right.
Yes, and so like American Alpha, they were essentially a direct translation. When they came over,
The Vaudevillains is probably a better. The Ascension is another one. There's a 3 tag teams right there who were huge draws in NXT.
Right.
The Ascension was basically like one of the fiercest, toughest, longest reigning tag team champions in NXT, and then they've just been buried on the main roster.
But can I tell you why they got buried though? The second they cut their first promo, I immediately said, well, these guys are Legion of Doom wannabes and they sound stupid. And I was out that second, checked out. So yeah, NXT, here's the thing. I'm going to equate it this way because I want to be concise. I want us to both be able to talk about this in the time we have. So Marvel Comics for a little while, when the internet blew up and Marvel Comics got really involved, the forums were very particular about what they wanted to see, who they wanted to talk to, what they wanted to hear, what they wanted to see characters that team up and stuff. And for a little bit, the forums controlled Marvel editorial. Marvel started doing a bunch of stuff that they saw from the forums that people wanted. They were listening to the internet trolls. This is before people realized that the internet exists for trolling.
Right.
People didn't know this back then. They're everyone. I'm getting a ton of feedback. I got 200 emails today that people want to do this. Well, the only people who wanted to do it were the 200 that emailed.
Right.
And so when these things would come out, they would bomb and they would tank and they would go over critically awful. And the result was Marvel eventually had to stop. They had to get a hold of their own control and say, those people aren't buying the books. And Bill Jemas was the editor-in-chief at the time, and he got in a lot of trouble because he flat out said, listen, our vocal fan base are not the people who buy the books. So we're not going to do what they say anymore. And he shouldn't have said it. He should have just gone about it.
Right.
He should have just ignored them. But instead, he went public with the whole, we're done listening to you. And that and some other stuff pretty much ended his time there. Because then the vocal minority just emailed all the time how much they hated Bill Jemas because he's ignoring them.
Right.
And so the same thing I think happens here. The NXT, the people who seek NXT are wrestling fans. The people who watch Raw and SmackDown like wrestling. And there's a massive difference between the two. So while if you are a massive wrestling fan, you watch NXT and think the Ascension are awesome because they could do athletic, big man, cool stuff.
Different than what you're normal.
But once they move over,
see normally.
Right. Once they move over to Raw, at the time it was the only SmackDown wasn't even
It wasn't.
When they moved over to Raw, they just looked like a dumb version of Legion of Doom. It just immediately failed. American Alpha is another example.
Yeah, they were
at
huge
NXT. Massive.
Everyone loved them.
They came out there and they're duds. The second they debuted, you were like, man, American Alpha. And I was like, these two guys are some of the most boring wrestling I've ever seen.
These guys are so fun to watch.
And you were like, this is great. And every time they wrestled, I was like, that match was awful. I hated everything about that match. And they gave them the tag team titles. They had them beat the Wyatts. It was Randy Orton and Bray Wyatt, and they beat them. Yep. So that's not fair because Vince McMahon totally put them over.
But when you see
the Vaudevillains, they were dealing with injuries, but they kept their gimmick. They came out in the black and white. They did their posing. They did the dumb mustaches.
When you look, it's also a way you push things in matches and all that kind of different stuff. But if you're Triple H and you're building up this huge thing that's doing amazing, like it's going crazy, and then you see your guys go up to the main roster and
not make it.
And not make it and get buried. Like that's got to be frustrating to you.
But see, that's not true. They're not getting buried.
Some of them are getting buried.
Some of them are, but some of them are terrible. They just don't work at the next level. And that's the thing is the NXT is the minor leagues, and not everybody who succeeds in the minor leagues makes it in major league. There are tons of minor league champions who get to the major leagues and go 0 for 25, get sent back down,
a lot of college
and
kids.
are never seen again.
A lot of college football players do the same thing.
Exactly. You
But-
won a Heisman, you're the greatest quarterback who ever left Oklahoma.
Different, right?
And then you're never heard from again.
Triple H, from what is being said,
No, and I can understand.
he's getting frustrated.
I can totally understand his frustration. But if he's being honest,
It's funny that it's coming out now because ratings have been down.
right?
And
So now he's starting to say,
it's Vince's fault.
right, it's Vince's fault. But the truth of the matter is, I don't think it's Vince's fault. I do think the Jinder Mahal thing is stupid.
I love that.
I think it's so
love that. And
dumb.
it's gone over so well with everyone.
Well-
and you know what? Part of the problem could just be is now because of indie wrestling, we got to get out of here pretty quick.
Yeah.
Because of indie wrestling and everything you can watch, like it's not just WWE anymore. Like,
Right.
not, you know what I'm saying? It's not
Ratings
the only.
are down for everything. Football ratings were down this season.
But like WWE's not the only wrestling.
no,
program
I don't
you
think
can
I don't,
see.
I don't think that's what it is. I
It's
think
the biggest one, obviously.
I just think it's the fact that live sports,
It's going down.
this year was a down year.
Right. No, that's definite. But it's not the only. It's the big fish in the sea.
Yeah,
But
for
there's
sure.
tons of other stuff. There's other fish in the sea out there. Blah 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 blah.
I can make a huge list though, and I won't do it because we are out of time.
Yep,
I
yep.
can make a huge list of NXT guys who got great pushes, the Shield and Finn Balor.
Yeah,
and things like
there's
that.
been good ones.
There's tons.
Previous one, but I think he's speaking more recently. And with that, we have to get out of here. Thanks for tuning in to Nerd Thug Radio today. Don't forget tomorrow, Facebook.com/Nerd Thug Radio. Like us and become our friend and post stuff on our page. And you will see the podcast drop and you can listen to this entire show
Yeah,
all day, all week long.
that's right. You got nothing better to do than to hear us 7 days in a row.
Right. And then we're going to release each segment of the show on the YouTube so you can catch it on that fly as well.
That's true.
You're listening to Nerd Thug Radio on Conroe's FM 104.5, 106.1.
Same Nerd Thug time, same Nerd Thug channel.
Hit that funky music, Nico. I'm flying. I'm flying.